Hey everyone, welcome back to Ask a Family Specialist. My name is Bethany and I'm a certified child and family specialist here at Crayons to Confidence. I have 2 degrees in child and family development and early childhood education. I have research published in social and emotional development, and I've spoken at numerous childhood mental and emotional health conferences. And today I'm here to talk to you about building respect with your kids. Our question today comes from Melanie. Melanie says, there's a lot of tension in our house right now, particularly regarding behavior. We have rules, but our kids never abide by them, and when they do, it's always accompanied with whining and protesting. I have become a yeller, which is the one thing I promised myself I would never be. How do I get my kids to like and respect me? I feel like it's a constant power struggle. Oh, Melanie, I feel this so deep in my bones. When I first began teaching kindergarten, I found myself transformed into a yeller as well. I'd been working with kids for nearly 10 years prior, and I had never been a yeller. It was something that I really prided myself on. But the moment I got into this specific environment, I just started snapping, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So we can speak to this from a child development level, but I can also speak to this from a personal level. It's hard to find yourself suddenly embodying this thing that you promised yourself deep in your core that you would never be. But just so you know, yelling and enforcing consequences in this way is very common. Doesn't make it right, just makes it normal. Typically, parents find themselves yelling when they realize they've exasperated all of their other options. It can also come from a history of yelling or growing up in a verbally abusive household, but for most of us, it just comes from not being regulated enough in our own emotions to deal with the situation at hand. In other words, there's no way we can respond to our own child's emotions and behavior if our own emotions and behavior is not in check. And the first thing we have to note here is that kid behavior does stem directly from their emotional state. They aren't behaving a certain way because they're evil or because they're bad kids. They're behaving a certain way for a reason. Because something going on inside of them, the way that they are feeling, goes against the grain of whatever request you have just made. And because of this emotion that's building up inside of them, they begin to whine or protest or tantrum or whatever. And we see it as disrespect, which, by the way, most of the time fills us with either an boiling rage or deep hurt. So now our own emotions are active. We're either angry or we're upset in some way, and our own behavior is being distorted based on what's going on inside of us. The same way it gets distorted with your kids. The important thing for us to realize in this moment, though, is that our child's behavior very likely doesn't have a single thing to do with us. If you're one of those people like me who takes everything really personally, this is a situation where you have to separate that. Most kids don't wake up automatically trying to disrespect their parents throughout the day. Chances are high they're not trying to disrespect you. There is, at least in their mind, a valid reason why they feel they cannot do whatever it is that you've just asked them to. So our first step here is to back up, take a deep breath, and remove yourself from the situation entirely. Why don't they want to come inside for dinner? Why do they refuse to go to bed right now? Why do they insist they keep playing their video game after their screen time is up? You can search for this answer yourself, but I recommend just asking them. I've never had a kid who didn't want to tell me what was going on if they knew the emotion that they were dealing with. Maybe they don't want to come in for dinner right now because their friend leaves for their dad's house tomorrow and they want a little extra time with them. Maybe they don't want to go to bed right now because mom is getting home from an out-of-town work trip tonight and they want to stay up to see her. Maybe they're smack in the middle of a boss fight in their video game and they're gonna lose all of their progress if they stop in the middle of it. Haven't you ever stayed late at work when you started a project that you thought was going to take 5 minutes and it ended up taking an hour? Yeah, we've all done stuff like that, and our kids do stuff like that too. Now, whatever your rules are on these things, that's up to you. But it's important for us to understand where our kids are coming from. Most of the time, they're not doing it to disrespect us. They're doing it because they have a reason. And once we at least know why they are acting the way they are acting, let's validate it. It's easy to react to the behavior that our child is exhibiting. You've done it, I've done it, we've all done it. But what we accidentally communicate when we react this way is that we are not okay with the feeling that your child is currently experiencing. What we are trying to communicate is that we are okay with the feeling, but we're not okay with the behavior that's being associated with it. But most of the time, that's not how it comes across. So in this stage, before we do anything else, we need to show our child that while we don't appreciate the behavior that we are seeing from them, we understand what they are feeling and we want them to share those emotions with us. Tell them, I know how much you miss your friend whenever he's at his dad's house. Or, yeah, it makes sense that you want to stay up to see your mom. She's been gone a really long time. Or, I know how frustrating it can be when we are so close to a goal, but we just haven't accomplished it yet. This reminds your child that ultimately you are on their side. It communicates to them that we do care, that we are human too, and we understand where they're coming from. It communicates that while behaviors are not all appropriate, emotions are always okay, and we never want them to hide those emotions or those reasons from us. So now they have the knowledge that the way they're feeling is okay, but the way they're acting is not. So now we can focus on redirecting their behavior. See if you can give them an alternative that would work as a compromise, or see if you can find a solution that will speak to your need or your rule and what they are feeling. You can say something like, "We have to come inside for dinner right now, but let's schedule a time for you to hang out with your friend whenever he gets back from his dad's." Or, "Mom won't be home for several hours and it's time for you to go to bed, but I'll have her come and kiss you goodnight as soon as she gets home." Or, "I'm setting a timer for 5 minutes to see if you can finish beating the boss. But if it goes off and the fight isn't done, we have to be done for the night and we can try again tomorrow." More often than not, simply giving them an alternative is enough to can the protesting altogether. But if that still doesn't work and they still refuse to abide by your rules, it's time to follow through with our consequences. Not that I am against traditional consequences, like taking away toys because they didn't follow a rule. Consequences are most effective when they are natural, when it's a natural result of the choice that they have made. For example, you could tell your child, "If you don't go to bed and wait for mom there, then I won't have her come in as soon as she gets home and you'll have to wait till tomorrow morning to see her." Or you could say, "The timer just went off, 5 minutes is up. Put the game away now or there won't be any screen time left for tomorrow." And for the record, they won't be happy about these consequences. They never are. I don't like whenever I have natural consequences in my life either. But there are always natural consequences to the choices that we make, whether we're a kid or not. But most of the time, parents have a tendency when we get emotionally escalated to skip steps 1 and 2 altogether and jump straight to the consequences. But we have found, and research has proven time and time again, that when we really utilize that validation and redirection phase first, the odds of needing the consequence phase altogether are far less. The bottom line is, kids will never respond well to us or like us or respect us if we don't start by responding well to them and liking them and respecting them. I know this is an unpopular opinion, mostly because it's one that we haven't been operating from for centuries, but the research backs it 100%. This strategy requires you to break some generational patterns. It requires you to break some pretty primal emotional patterns too. And that's really difficult. But when we stop to take a moment to implement our discipline in these 3 steps, validate, redirect, and then consequences, we can stay in control of the situation instead of yelling and it spiraling out of our grasp. Whether we like it or not, kids are their own person. We don't own them just because we made them. They are not our property. They are not our slaves. They are not made to serve us. Quite the opposite, actually, right? We are there to serve them, to raise them, to love them, even when they don't make it easy to do so. We are the parent, the adult, quite literally the bigger person, and we set the tone for our household. I know it's not as easy as just telling you not to yell. That's a hard habit to break, but by breaking our response down into these 3 steps, validate, redirect, and then consequences, we start to find some opportunities to give them that same respect as well. Model respect for them in these moments so that they don't just know what respect looks like, they know what it feels like to receive it. And the more we like and respect our kids, the more likely they will be to like and respect us as well. For more information on cultivating discipline and respect, visit crayonstoconfidence.com. As a member, you'll gain access to all kinds of behavior courses, resources, and on-call access to a child and family specialist who is ready and available to answer any specific questions you might have. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know when the next question's been answered. I'll see you next time.